Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. It is Monday, there is no final word, but we have had Jurgen Klopp as the Liverpool boss for just over 4 years, so we thought we'd sit down and talk through some of the highs, lows, and the journey that kind of got us to where we are today. This
the
show
of European football, that is
basically, yeah, absolutely.
Full title, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. This show is brought to you in association with The Athletic. We've got a fantastic partnership with them at the moment. They do some of the best, if not the best, writing on Liverpool in the world today. James Pearce, Simon Hughes, and a plethora of the best sports writers on the planet today are all on the app, and you can get 50% off your yearly subscription by using theathletic.co.uk/the Redmen TV, and it's free for the first month as well. There's a couple of bits on there from James Pearce, well worth filling your time with. There's a piece on the former Liverpool defender, who is the #1 fantasy football player in the world at the moment. Spoilers, it's Nicky Tanner, which is the best thing he's probably ever done in his entire life, which is mad. I look at my dad's face. Can't ever get over Nicky Tanner as the player, can you?
I'll put him in my team tomorrow.
So there's that, and obviously there's an article by Pearce as well talking about like the Anfield expansion and the problem with touts and stuff. Really, really good, really interesting stuff. Some really long, in-depth reads. Get over there, theathletic.co.uk/the Redmen TV. Anyway, I am Paul Machin. I am joined by Chris Pajak, by John Machin, and by Steve Hall for this one, gentlemen. 4 years of Jurgen Klopp. We've delved into the numbers, the big stats. We're going to start at the start, really, Chris. And
seems logical.
It does, doesn't it? You know, we could jump all over the place. I'm sure we will at some point, but it was really interesting because I sat down with James Pearce the other week and talked about like the end of Brendan Rodgers in the build-up to the Leicester game. It's kind of fresh in my mind, and it was a really interesting time to do it. It's easy to forget that obviously we went from the spectacular highs of 13-14, but everything fell off a cliff very, very quickly for Brendan, and it's mad to kind of put ourselves back in that time 4 years ago. I remember walking out of Goodison Park in the derby. We were drawn, and I couldn't fathom where we are today. Then we never felt further away from a European Cup and all that. Probably as far away as we'd almost ever been at that point.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of credit built up by Brendan, wasn't there, after 13-14, but it did really quickly erode away, didn't it? And, you just have to look back to that last month of results that he got, and, a few defeats and a few draws in there against some big sides as well. Your Manchester United, your Evertons were all there. But really, it didn't look like we were going to improve anytime quickly. And as you say, we went miles away from where we are today. And, we needed to do something, and we probably needed to make the change at the end of the season, but because he'd had that credit in the bank from the year previous, 13-14, FSG decided, let's give him one more sort of roll of the dice.
He basically threw his coaching staff to the wolves. They'd need to buy himself one more spin, and it's mad, isn't it? That because think back to that day. The rumours were it started to be rumoured Brendan Rodgers is gone. There's the famous Thierry Henry grabbing Jamie Carragher's leg, all that kind of stuff, and then it's Klopp and Ancelotti, the big names being linked. It's mad. I always think back to the times when we were tentatively linked with Zidane in like the year before he moved to Real Madrid, and it was never deemed a possibility because like Liverpool weren't a consistent Champions League side and did we have the money, etc. I never felt like Klopp was attainable at all the time during Dortmund, and then all of a sudden he's there, he's being unveiled.
Yeah, it was funny because probably for a year there had been fans bombarding John Henry and his missus saying sign Klopp.
Yeah.
Regardless of how well Brendan was doing or not doing.
And Goethe.
Sorry?
And Goethe.
Yeah,
Royce.
Bring him along.
Royce.
Bring your son along, yeah. And we all talked of Brendan as being like a bit like a poor man's Klopp. We had this image that we were a club who were going to have young kids and then sell them when they became profitable.
Yeah.
And we were never going to be buying big stars. And Klopp had made that model his own, hadn't he, at Dortmund. And to actually go from like the apprentice to the master, that was quite a jump, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
you're not meant to lose a manager like Brendan Rodgers. We went from Rafa Benitez, who was the best manager we'd had since Kenny, maybe Ulier, I suppose. But, and then you go back to all those managers who are being linked with Alan Kirbysh, and he's getting linked with the job. All of a sudden we go through Hodgson, Kenny.
But we were not overjoyed with Rodgers to begin with. I mean, I think didn't he turn us down first or something? And there was a bit of stuff like that. And then he came, and I remember thinking, oh God, if he didn't really want us then, and he's certainly not going to be better than Rafa. But, give him his due, he really turned that round.
And his detractors would always say that Swansea side was really built on the foundations of
Palacios
and the Martinez's and all that world, was it?
But I don't forget the year before he left because of the anguish, and he showed it. I always remember he talked about pacing the floor all night, trying to figure out what he could do to get the side back on track, and he came up with 3 at the back.
Yeah.
And that was successful for about 5 or 6 games. And
then
we played Swansea of all people, and they beat us. And then we went downhill. We stopped winning games, and it just looked like he'd run out of ideas. It just hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
And that had happened with all our managers. All the managers we'd had who'd come second in the league, that was like them finished.
Yeah.
They'd done everything they could, and they still couldn't win. That was the end of them.
That's it. And obviously he comes in to stay, and it's mad because my timeline, when I have to constantly remind myself of where things fit, because effectively he had 3/4 of a season in his first year. It's such a really odd one to look back on, because I remember things happening in that season that didn't happen in that season. They happened in the seasons thereafter. But I think there's a few really key moments, and the first one is we go away to White Hart Lane, his first game in charge, and it's one of those things that does the rounds periodically on social media, and I've actually got it. I'm just going to read through it. The team that Liverpool put out on the day is one of the worst football teams. I think that Liverpool have probably, well, no, I tell a lie. The Roy Hodgson, Robert Nicky and all that kind of stuff side is amongst the best. But we had Simon Mignolet in goal, Skrtel, Sakho, Klein, Moreno, which is kind of much and much as Lucas, Emre Can, Milner, Coutinho, Lallana, Origi, but then you had the likes of Toure, Allen, Ibe, Bogdan, Randall, João Teixeira and Jerome Sinclair on the bench. And then you think about what we've come since then. Astonishing, but the story at the time then was all very much like you got to see immediately what Klopp was all about. And we saw this side. You saw Adam Lallana collapsed off the pitch, didn't he? Like absolutely ran himself into the ground. That was what it was. Klopp was just going to get these lads dead fit and see where it went.
Straight away, you could tell. Like he coming in and he bombed 5. He was like, it's 4 at the back. That was the first change he made. It was like, I'm going to 4, and it's going to be 4 no matter what. And then you see shoots things, and it doesn't always go right because he draws a couple, he draws a few early. I think it's probably the City away game, is it? That where things like you get 4-1, and that's when you see like this is what he's after. High intensity, high press. Probably didn't trust his defence enough, so he knew he had to go and do that.
It's when Bobby came of age, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're into.
We didn't even know what Bobby was then, did we?
I was disappointed with him. I'll be honest. I remember I went to the West Ham game, I think, under Rodgers, and we got beat 3-0, and we were dreadful at home.
Oh, Gomez left back. I still talk about that game.
Dejan Lovren doing step overs on the halfway line and stuff. And I watched Firmino in that game, and I was like, this lad can't play on the wing. Yeah. He can't run. He was so slow, and everything just took an age. And I was like, this looks like another flop. It looks like another bust. We've got another transfer wrong on the back of everything else that had happened. And then Klopp comes in and just like say finds a place for him. Everything starts working, and it's more. Like I say, the team wasn't great, and the squad was really bad. It was unbalanced. Like I say, he said in your interview, didn't he? That wasn't what I wanted, but I had like 15 strikers, or 40 miles all trying to attack. Yeah. And so you slowly but surely, the issue we had was that the tools he had weren't good enough to play the footy he wanted. And
But he said the exact opposite, didn't he?
Yeah.
He kept going on about the squad's good enough for me.
But he was lying because he kept selling them.
I know. But that was his philosophy, wasn't it? Just don't downplay what I've got. Just big it up, and
But also, I think let's not forget he did get better out of them.
Oh yeah.
We got to 2 finals that season, so he wanted to find out what that squad could do when it was playing at its absolute best. Yeah. He had no choice in that matter either. By the way,
he handed that squad its future and said.
But he could have bought in January, and he didn't, did he?
No, that's true.
He deliberately kept what he had. Yeah.
No, that's it. Because he's fostering the team spirit. This is the thing where I find most interesting. What I've really enjoyed looking back on that first season the most is because you look at what's happening at Manchester United, and look what's happening at Chelsea to a lesser extent, and Everton's probably the most prevalent example. They're all talking about, like, particularly Everton, who is this guy? Who's this man? They've had this manager for a year and they don't know who he is, and they don't know what his philosophy is clearly, and they don't know what he's all about. Brendan Rodgers brought all like the fan groups in and got a tactics board out and said, here's how I'm going to play, here's what I want to do, and whatever, and that was great. Klopp had none of that. Klopp just was like, no, I'm just going to come in and I'm going to show you on the field what I'm trying to do. And for me, there's the building blocks of everything that we've gone on to do under Klopp all happened in that first season. And there's obviously other moments, but they become good games, or they become cultural touchstones as they go further along. For me, it's that first game against Spurs where you got the idea everyone's just going to run loads. There's the game where we lose to Crystal Palace on the 8th of November. We lose 2-1. And Jurgen Klopp comes out and he says, after the goal in 82 minutes, with 12 minutes to go, I saw many people leaving the stadium. I felt pretty alone at this moment. We decide when it's over. Between 82 and 94, you can make 8 goals if you like.
I'm still waiting for that to happen, by the way, Jurgen.
But that for me, if you want to look at building blocks, Chris, that was the game where he basically he realised he actually has got a bigger job on his hands. The job isn't getting the team playing.
Not just getting the team playing.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got to get the fans on side as well. And, we still see it. We actually saw it against Leicester a little bit last week. A couple of people getting off. But it's a constant reminder that there's going to be rewards for the people who
come on, how many times have we had that over the last sort of 12 to 18 months? Tottenham, Newcastle, Everton, they've all fallen foul of it, Leicester now as well. And, you're right. I remember we went to that, we were lucky enough to go to his first game in charge, weren't we, at White Hart Lane, and you just knew then and there that there was going to be something special building, and you didn't know how long it was going to take. And I think FSG, for all the detractors, especially back then, they recognised that the main issue they had with Brendan Rodgers was he didn't have a manager who wanted to work within the blueprints of what FSG wanted to do. Yeah. And that was with Mike Gordon and the committee and all of that type of stuff. And they went and found a manager who's worked in that type of a situation before and who actively wanted to be a part of that. And also a manager who is forward thinking and will use analytics and will use all of these things to get the best out of what he's got.
He's not walked into that football club, which Brendan Rodgers did, and gone, ooh, and like felt threatened by anything around it. I mean, that is the kind of man who thrives on people, talented people, showing him new things.
Well, I remember sitting here and saying that we're not going to sack Rodgers before that Chelsea game. We're going to run a games coming up, which a new manager's going to lose them all. At Spurs, Chelsea away, he's going to lose. So why would you bring a new manager in to face that? And Klopp came in and just knocked everyone's socks. We got beat by Palace, but we went to Chelsea and won. Yeah. Drew at Spurs, and you immediately began to believe this guy knows what he's doing. Yeah. But you didn't know what he was doing. He wasn't like Rodgers telling everyone. Yeah. He was just doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that the Chelsea game, I went to that game away, and it was one of those where we looked like our game plan and our tactics were better than the other team, and I hadn't felt that for a while. Even say 13-14, I always felt we were more talented and we were just blowing teams. I never thought we were out scheming or out tacting. Our manager was doing better than their manager and stuff, which was happening sometimes to Rodgers. Someone would do a job on him, and that game, things weren't going brilliant, and then Klopp just realised these are a little bit soft at the back, and he put Benteke on, and we just went direct at Benteke. Yeah. And we scored goal. He lays one off Coutinho, scores, and then Benteke scores himself. And it was one of those where, what Chris mentioned there about, it looked like he'd looked at an area of the pitch and gone, actually, if I send Benteke over to our right and we just hit the ball on him, their left back's not getting anywhere near him. Yeah. And it was things like that where you could just start seeing him planning little bits and bobs.
People constantly go back to the original press conference, and the doubters to believers thing is the one that takeaway that everyone talks about. But Chris, he talked about if you can beat teams, but if you come against better teams, you drag them down to your level and you kill them there. And that was what, and that's why it's mad. There's like a month there where we go from the defeat against Palace, we mentioned it before, we go to the Etihad, we basically go to 4-3-2, put Bobby Firmino in the false line. We battered them, absolutely. We were at that game, and it was one of those games, we had a few of them on the top where we're like, gobsmacked, you're 3-0 up after like half an hour, and you're like, you can't work out what the hell are you seeing? And then we go and we have that like the 2-2 draw with West Brom, which is the other one that gets held up, and it links back into the bringing the fans on side. Is that no one outside the ground really understood it, but everyone who was in the Kop that day understood what he was doing. We weren't celebrating drawing with West Brom.
You know, we've talked about it over the last sort of 12, 18 months, whatever, 2 years, and about like Klopp utilising marginal gains, and be that throwing coaches, be that set pieces, or be it the fans. You know, he recognised he was lucky enough that Liverpool play in a stadium where the fans can actually affect football matches, and getting them on side was a major part of making us into a force in Europe again. Not just Europe, but the Premier League as well. And you know, I find it really interesting. You mentioned that first quote about dragging them down to your level. Isn't it interesting that teams try that to us now, and we're ready for it, and we're able to do it at their level? Yeah. You know, it doesn't matter how you're going to come up against Liverpool nowadays. You want to play long ball against us? We did against Burnley. Yeah. All right, we out long balled you, and we won the game. So we've gone from a basis of having to do that now to being recognising that teams are going to try that against us, and we're able to deal with it because we know what they're going to do.
Well, let's say Klopp's a big Rocky fan, isn't he? And look at Rocky 5. You know, Tommy the Machine Gun tries to take it to the streets, and that's where Rocky came from. He knows how to street fight if he has to. I think it's a great point. But it's funny though that by the time that's the 13th of December is the West Brom thing. Klopp's coming in October, so by mid-December, he's basically laid it out for all to see. You know, as you said, we've gone there. We shown in the first game against Spurs what the general ethos is: run, press. He's sent a message out to the fans and said this will not stand this kind of loser behaviour. Yeah. He's gone to the Etihad and engineered a win in the style that we're going to see become the style ultimately. And then we've snatched a late point, and he's gone and rewarded the crowd for it. So he's been in there, not even been in half a season, and everything you need to know, everything you need to hold on to when there's going to be, you know, down points or whatever, he's laid out for us already.
Absolutely, and you couldn't really jump from that to winning the European Cup.
No,
you know, but you still felt this sort of great upsurge of belief, and that's what he talked about, wasn't it? Belief, you know, being believers, and we all became believers very quickly, didn't we?
Absolutely. Well, it's the stuff in the second half of the season.
But I do seem to, was it round about then he didn't have any defenders?
I couldn't tell you.
He brought in Stephen Corker.
That's the January after Stephen Corker.
Of course, yeah. Because that's the City game is in there. There's of course Martin Skrtel scores an absolute banger in that game. But yeah, we get into the new year with that Steve, and that's where I don't think we've looked back from then. Really, we've had knocks and we've had points where it hasn't been great, and we fought for things and what have you. But when you consider he had that couple of months. And then for that team, we go on. We get look, we lose the two finals, but we get to the League Cup final, which we lose on pens, and we lose that on pens because we miss our first 3 penalties. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, incredibly frustrating. One of the worst days of Chris's life as well. I've never seen a more ill Chris Page at a football match before.
It was the way you're on about now is the Norwich game's that January, isn't it? The 5-4, and then we have Dortmund a bit later on. You're talking about, you know, the late goals and the never. That's what I started taking from this period, is that Liverpool don't give up. Because I referenced that West Ham game before, and at 2-0 Liverpool give up. Yeah. And Brendan had gone, and the crowd had all gone home, and not only the players had given up, the crowd had given up, and the manager had given up. Yeah. So the West Brom goal, and then they go and beat Norwich in the last second, and then we have Dortmund a few weeks later, and that is one thing that has consistently stayed from then until now, is that Liverpool never ever give up. They can be 3-0 down with 10 to go, and they'll be running their bollocks off. And I think that's what we've learned now, is that's got to be from him. That's a mentality he's installed, and that team that goes the 5-4 at Norwich, it's nowhere near as good as the team that Liverpool have got now. Mm-hmm. But the same fundamental principle is the same, is that if you walk off that pitch having not given it your all, there's a very good chance you're not playing next week. I'm just not having it. I'll sub you off, whatever. Yeah. You've got to put your, and how many you mentioned before? How many late goals have you since then to now? It's actually quite incredible, and that's all him. It's partly fitness, so that his team deserve credit for that, but it's definitely mental in that you just don't stop. Why on earth would you give up when you can.
We always talk about it.
Don't settle for less.
We always talk about Dirk Kuyt as a player who run through brick walls for you. But even a team run by a great manager, Rafa Benitez, with great players around him, his work rate stood out because he did.
And he was maligned for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas
he was seen as like a bit of a workhorse rather than a striker.
Yeah.
The fact that he scored loads of goals didn't seem to make any difference.
But that level of effort.
But now everyone runs their socks off, and it's almost they don't even think about it anymore. People just do it.
Yeah.
I remember going under Benitez, funny enough. I think I went to Reading and we were getting beat, and he took Torres and Gerrard off, I think, and he'd always give up the game. I'll save the legs for next week. Or the Champions League, he takes Torres off when Chelsea go 2 up in extra time, and I'll save him for next week. I don't think we've ever seen that from Klopp. Like, next week he'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
It's pros and cons. You might run them into...
See, you're right, because we've seen sides where he's put teams out in cup competitions and we've lost them, but he's brought on Firmino and Salah or Mane. Whereas what we did on the Rodgers going to Real Madrid away and not playing any of the first team, that sends a message to the fans, doesn't it? And it's Klopp going out there and going, listen, I picked the wrong side or whatever, I thought they were good enough, but I ain't going to give up on this game, boys. And you need to be consistent. If you want the fans on side till the 94th, 5th minute, you need to be able to show them that you're not giving up.
The Madrid game, in some respects, shows the difference, because I can understand exactly what Rodgers did. He put his best team out at Anfield, and we were 3-0 down at half-time, and Real Madrid stopped playing.
Yeah.
And he thought to himself, well, if I put my best side out in Madrid, we're going to be 3-0 down at half-time. So what I want to do is stop them scoring goals, and then maybe later on. It was Sam Allardyce thinking.
Yeah.
And Klopp doesn't go anywhere near that kind of thinking at all. His thinking is always positive.
And it's always the next game.
It's always I can work it out.
Yeah.
I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
Yeah.
I want to win this match. So if we are 2-0 down to 3-0 down to Reading in 10 minutes, I'm leaving the best. In fact, I'm bringing more on.
Yeah.
I'm not don't throw no towels in. And like I said, you can't preach and training to your players to put the hard yards in and run and take them to America in Boston and flog them under intense heat. If you're then going to give up on games, and I think that's the main change he's made, is that no game is not important for him, and we've even seen him like the teams in that first year when he goes to Exeter and plays
with the obvious exception, I think, of the FA Cup.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever. And it's as evidenced by we've never gotten past the 4th round of the FA Cup under Klopp.
I think that's timing where it is squad depth, how good the squad is. And he has to make changes, but even then in those games, it's not like he accepts losing. He'll make them run. Don't get me wrong. And you see him, he's fuming on the Wolves game in the cup. He's absolutely livid on the sidelines. Like, you're expected to deliver when you get the shirt.
I think those early cup games were about him seeing what his resources were, and seeing what he had, and seeing as an important tool in finding out how to move on.
Yeah.
Who did he have in his squad?
Jose Enrique, not a centre back, brilliant.
Captain that game, didn't he?
It's a cross. So,
Jordan Ibe and people like this, and Ojo, they all got on the pitch, and he had a look at what they were like, and by the end of that season, he'd not bought anyone apart from Stephen Corker, and never played him, except as a centre forward once, I think. But he knew exactly what he needed, and then he went and started to fix it.
The
other thing though, early on, is that he kept giving us real highs.
Yeah.
Not all the time, because you can't do that with what he had. But that City game was one, and obviously Dortmund was another. The victory over United at Old Trafford, it wasn't a victory at Old Trafford, was it? I think it was a draw.
1-1 draw, wasn't it? I think
Coutinho scored that fantastic goal.
Yeah.
And those, he kept getting the supporters, rewarding them and saying, look, this is what we can look forward to.
It's funny because you can just forget about that League Cup defeat. It feels so far away and so inconsequential ultimately. But it's the Europa League stuff that we talk about, the building blocks. We bookend the season with building blocks. It's those little early couple of months, and then it's the final couple of months of the season, because you're dead right. We've got the Dortmund game, we've got Manchester, Augsburg we played. Everyone remember that? Yeah. We played Ragnar Klavan and no one remembers. Who's this lad? Who's this Klavan lad? We played him twice last season. Oh, right, okay. But yeah, you're right. We knock out Manchester United, knocking out Villarreal, knocking out Dortmund. It's funny, I was watching back a video from the time, and I called it the Dortmund game the greatest European night in Saint-Etienne, and it'll be forgotten about now. You know, it won't be because we all remember it, but now
there's a few more to add to the list.
Exactly, it's now not a patch on Barcelona, which we'll come to. But we finished the season 8th. Which is mad.
He kind of froze the last month, didn't he?
Yeah, 100%.
He's not bothered.
Well, we were playing Ojo and Ibe and Benteke
West Brom. I think I remember that one.
I think Chirivella at Swansea.
Yeah. But it's the Basel one for me, and you don't realise the time. Again, we did a documentary, and I remember saying at the end of it, it felt like the beginning of something, but it was only ever a feeling. That set the blueprint. Chris, it was the template for what's followed. It was the template for Kiev.
On the pitch, off the pitch, everything. Yeah. Because, you know, I remember, first European final I'd ever been to, and being in that square in Basel will stay with me forever because it was just unbelievable. And what's happened since then, it's clearly been surpassed. But off the pitch, that's what you saw, and there was a belief about the fan base again. On the pitch, you know,
how many kids did we see?
Loads, and that was one of the great things. And you look at now, and you look at these what Boss Night are doing and the Boss kids and stuff, and you look at it and you go, and the future's sound here, innit? Yeah. It's sorted because we've got this young generation coming through who seem to understand, exactly what it is to be a Liverpool fan. Now, we probably, or I'll talk for myself, I probably came to that a little bit late. There was nothing like that for us when we were growing up. Those days were long gone, and we were just living off the stories of people like your dad and my dad and stuff like that, and all of us were like that, and we were all wanting something special for ourselves. Basel was that first taste of something special, but it's not how you react to wins and stuff, is it? It's how you react to losses, and I think that's the big thing. You started the show talking about every Liverpool manager. Someone mentioned he finished second. That was the finish line. Well, it wasn't for Klopp, and it never has been for Jurgen Klopp. The finish line is creating something special and winning trophies, and that's the difference. I
said it before, we'd had managers who'd done well. I mean, you look at Houllier and his five trophies in his season and all that, but we never ever moved on from that. Yeah. But when you look at the stats, Klopp stats, there's a genuine progression. And you can see it really.
We haven't seen that progression since Rafa.
The longer he's here, you just see every season getting better and better and better.
In hindsight, the loss in Basel was a killer, but it might have saved us well in that it didn't get us European football for the next year.
Yeah.
And I don't think we would have been. If we'd have gone that Champions League, I mean, God knows, because our record under them was amazing. And who knows what would have happened in 2016. But I don't think we had the capabilities to go and fight on two fronts. Yeah. Whereas that gave him the
space,
one game a week kind of thing. Then he again jibbed the cups off early doors.
Well, he talks, doesn't he, about training time and how important it is and how much you lose that once you're in the second. And I think part of that ties into why he doesn't have loads of squad training.
Our legs fell off at the end of that. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but so it's 16-17, isn't it? When by the end of that season, legs have gone, and I'm thinking in hindsight, it'd have been great to win in Bars. Don't get me wrong, and we probably should have won that game. I thought we were, from the position we were in, we kind of threw it away. It's sliding doors, isn't it? It's butterfly effect. But had we won that trophy there, where would we be now? Because we crawl over the line the next season.
Well, Rafa fell under this, didn't he? He fell under the weight of the expectation he brought himself by winning the Champions League in the first season. And I know the Europa League's not
it's more the games. It's the extra games as well.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly. Well, but again, think about what happened. We started from the first qualifying round with Rafa.
The thing with Rafa, I mean, he won the Champions League, then. He got there again, and he also got to semi-final. Like in 4 years, we were probably the most consistent side in Europe. Yeah. But there was no support for him. Yeah. And that's the big thing we've got now with Klopp, is he's got support. Yeah. This club supports Klopp 100%. Yeah.
That's it. The Basel thing, it's funny because I remember they made like a mini documentary on it to be showed at Anfield on the tour, and we were contacted about using some of our footage for it, which is funny because, again, think about it. It's like it caught people cold. It was a real gathering of the old school. There was loads of old school Reds who'd obviously been to all the really old ones, and it was like they brought the kids or the grandkids and all that kind of stuff along with them to kind of reignite the whole thing. But like Liverpool didn't treat it in the same way. It wasn't prepared. It was someone playing it was like a pre-recorded playlist that was being played of like classic rock songs and whatever. A bunch of people just stood around the square drinking. There was nothing particularly prepared about it. And so, but it does. It sets the tone. And with the bits and pieces that came out of it, it meant that when we got to Kiev, everyone was like, "That looked amazing. I want to be a part of it."
But do you remember Klopp's like, "Get over there." And like, I want 100,000 people there or something like that. No, you can't say that. He doesn't have
literally his next press conference, he went, "Let me start by saying, don't go without the team." Someone had obviously had a word with him.
You can't tell them that, Jurgen. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we move on obviously to the next season, 16-17, and Steve's kind of spoiled at the end to some extent. But
it's history, mate. It's spoiled itself.
Yeah. The two interesting things very early on. Sadio Mane being the big sign, and it's funny, isn't it? Again, hindsight. There was that tweet that cropped up a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? The old Sky Sports one, and all the reactions to it. Steve, everyone wanted Goethe. Everyone wanted Goethe over Sadio Mane. I can't even imagine a world.
Hindsight's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah,
he looks like me, Goethe. Sadio Mane's the best player in the world.
Is he even still play? I haven't heard anyone mention Mario Goethe's name.
He plays a high play, very slowly. There's a genuine case to be made that Sadio Mane is the best signing Liverpool have ever made. In terms of, without him, none of this is possible now.
Yeah.
Because it's him and how good he is that gets us into a position where we finish fourth.
Yeah.
And obviously he's injured at the end, but he almost drags us. I remember going to Chelsea at home when he'd been away on AFCON duty, and he'd come back and he'd arrived in the country like 3 o'clock that morning or whatever, and he's on the bench, and because we're just desperate for him to play, and he comes on, and in the end we draw the game, but
we fell to pieces in January
when he went, all our hopes and dreams, it was like, we are the slowest side I've ever seen in my life. We are just like, honestly, our midfield three was like Henderson, Chan, Lucas, and it was like watching paint dry. And then all of a sudden this guy comes and he's just rapid. And the first game, it's Arsenal, isn't it? The 4-3 he makes a debut. And I'm like, wow, this guy could be special. If nothing else, he just injects some pace into what is... I think Everton are going through this now, actually, is a team where, for whatever reason, Everton's so slow. And I think Klopp had identified that and went and bought him. I genuinely think we had this conversation a while ago, Chris, on a news show or something like Jurgen's greatest ever signings, and I think it's him. They've all been, listen, don't get me wrong, there's Van Dijk and there's Salah and there's Alisson, and you can go, the list is on. But
well, remember,
I think it's Mane, I think it's him.
Do you remember at the end of that season, it is the next one we signed Salah, isn't it?
After,
yeah, so we're all like, right, we need a backup for Mane in case he goes down. Brilliant, we've got Salah, thank fuck for that. If case Mane goes down,
what's he doing
we've
playing
got
them both? We've got no understudy for these two.
Well, we forget that he played the whole season on the right wing, didn't he?
And he was top goal scorer.
And we thought Salah was coming in to be his understudy.
And he gets injured, doesn't he? I think Everton, and I remember him going off and thinking, oh wow, we are going to scrape, we're going to have to get up, because we were still a bit rubbish, to be honest.
Yeah.
But he was like almost single-handedly dragging us, and when we signed him, I was like, okay, we've gone for the gamble, we've gone for the lad in the Premier League who can he make the step up? And I mean,
come back to Southampton.
I mean, going back to that well again, which had provided indifferent results, to say the least.
We kept going back trying to get the one we wanted, and trying them all out. He's the one.
I think he was tarnished.
To be fair, I could have said it wasn't going to be Ricky Lambert. Like,
I think he had been tarnished because I thought we all, Klein had gone all right. The others, no one was really sold.
Totally forgot.
Ricky
no one had really been sold on the line.
We forget we had a season where our 4 forwards scored 4 goals between them. Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, and if you look at Mane then, to how he is now, you could see that he could have been. I mean, listen, he's what is he now? I think he got voted like the 3rd or 4th best player in the world. No one would have expected that.
Yeah.
But
I think Salah's made him a better player, because I think that competition has made him more consistent, and he has had his ups and downs, hasn't he? But this season is just phenomenal.
Yeah. And that, I think, again, going back to it's the Arsenal game, isn't it? And that almost...
The first game is when he tears them apart from the right wing and smacks it in.
That gives you a look what the season's going to be like.
Well, you see it all the time, don't you? We always talk about these players having an impact from the start. And Peter Crouch went 10 was it 10 games, 15 games or something without a goal, and then one missed a penalty in that and all kinds. Like one finally goes in, and then he's up and running. But you already know that Peter Crouch is never going to score 20 goals in a season for you because because
we had no one to cross the ball.
Yeah, oh sure, yeah.
He scored them all for
It
England.
was just waiting in the wings, but not literally.
Was it that season that Mane got sent off?
No,
Against
this
City?
was... the season
against
after.
City.
17, 18.
This is the one when we...
This is where he's injured, isn't he? The second game of the season, we go and just basically bang on the door at Burnley for 90 minutes and have nothing.
38 shots
And everyone's
lose
fuming,
2-0
why haven't
or
we signed?
something.
Where's our striker? Why haven't we signed the striker? We've sold Benteke, or we're selling Benteke. Yeah. Where's the striker? And we never had one. And to be fair, I think I probably sat on this show or similar shows going, where's the striker? Because we were crap.
I'm not sure Benteke scored since, by the way. He's had about 200 appearances.
But he's the perfect example of the good players coming at the ground. Like think about Fernando Torres shining. You knew you had a player within 90 minutes. You knew what you
Suarez,
bought.
bobbles one in, doesn't
he? Yeah, absolutely.
I think I watched Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football a couple of days. I can't remember who he was talking about actually a few weeks ago, and he was saying like he said like everyone always says give players time and they'll come good, but he went, usually with me, we knew straight away. Like you knew within like he didn't need 5 games, and if he needed 5 games, you wouldn't say it because everyone he needs time. But in your head you're thinking, hang on, we might have been diddled here.
Yeah.
Where like Mane, that goal he just cuts inside, bends it in the other corner, he's off.
Yeah.
And then like the Torreses and the Suarezes and the Salahs and the Van Dijks who have just come in from day one and been brilliant. That's probably Klopp's greatest strength over these last 4 years, is that the recruitment he's got, it starts with Sadio Mane.
The lads who are ready to come in and impact, go in and impact straight away. Yeah. And the lads who aren't, he doesn't chuck them under the bus. Yeah. And have them flounder or whatever.
Just don't play.
He doesn't buy for the sake of buying. Yeah. He buys for the purpose of filling a gap that he's seen. Yeah. And if they don't do it right away, you expect, like Fabinho's the obvious one, isn't he? Mm. He took a while to get into it, and now you wouldn't see the team without him, would you?
Yeah, absolutely.
No. You think off the top of your head, you think, well, the forward players, that you can understand why they're going to just get thrown in there. Van Dijk, you could absolutely understand why he was getting chucked in at the deep end. But your Fabinho's, your Keiters, the midfielders that have come in, it will take time. Yeah, it's a system that nobody's really played before.
And I think that's the key is that, though, you don't play them then. You don't have, like, here's my £50 million player, I'm going to play him.
Exactly, there's no desperation from it, and that's the running thread throughout all this. He's never, because he's not under pressure, and he's referenced it, and I think all the coaches have referenced it as well. I think Pep referenced it in his press conference for the League Cup the other week, that like that's what happens when your manager knows he's got time. He doesn't have to get instant results, and when you don't have to get instant results, and you've got a methodology, you can afford to let it breathe and let it breathe. It's funny because I did the documentary on this on my channel, and I kind of yada this season a bit because there's no European, so there's not as many highs in this season. Because you don't have the European games, which we're so used to. And it's funny because you mentioned that the January period was what absolutely killed us off that year. We lost the League Cup semi.
To Sunderland, because we had a cracking Year's Eve.
We beat
Wijnaldum's header against City, wasn't it?
And then he picked the exact same team a day later, which probably goes to show he didn't trust the squad.
That was the Sunderland 2-2, wasn't it?
Everyone, it was like the whole league had to play 2 games in 3 days. And like Klopp just picked the same team.
Yeah, we had like 36 hours or whatever it was, or 20 hours, something stupid like that.
We were absolutely knackered. I was thinking, he obviously doesn't trust his squad because why would you then play the exact... You've just ran your arse off against City.
We only won 1 game that January, which was an FA Cup replay versus Plymouth. We didn't win a Premier League game then until the 11th.
Was that 2-0 against Spurs? Was that Mane 2 goals, or did he just rip them apart in that game?
Early doors, yeah.
Yeah. And he's done that. He does that to the big sides, doesn't he, Mane?
If you remember in the January, we lost Coutinho injured. We lost Mane to Africa, and Matip wasn't allowed to play because of a dispute.
Yeah. Someone ever filled a form in or something?
No, he was in dispute with his...
That's never happened again.
His international manager wanted to pick him, and he refused to play. Yeah. And therefore he was banned for the whole tournament, even though he wasn't.
But he might not have been banned. Liverpool just weren't sure if he was banned, so he didn't want to play him. Yeah. That was ridiculous.
It was a shit show.
And it's that season where going back to what you referenced earlier on, Steve, where the legs fell off. We clawed ourselves over the line. I remember we went away to West Ham, and we played Sturridge and Origi up front. Like, we had Mane's out, and you think, what the hell are we going to do here? And we switched formation. We went to like a 4-4-2 diamond-ish, and we beat them 4-0. And then, okay, we didn't quite kick on from there, whatever, but it leads to like Middlesbrough last game of the season. And I remember us doing the live show in town afterwards, and it was a bizarre situation to be in, because we'd spent years laughing at Arsenal for thinking like, oh, the top 4 trophy, blah, blah, blah. And we were all a bit scared to say it, but like Jurgen wasn't. Like, top 4, finishing 4th was no open top bust or yada, yada, yada. But it was success that season. And we weren't used to saying it. We were a bit embarrassed to say it. But it's what provided, that was the next stage, the next platform.
It absolutely was. I mean, you know, I think back to that team and what we did there, and I'll let Steve and John talk about how good and significant that was. But there was a point towards the end of that season where, you know, when we were struggling against bottom half teams that season, big time, and having played 18 games of the 20 games, we'd won 9, drew 3, and lost 6 of those 18 games. Now, that's not good enough. Liverpool last season played those bottom half sides, played 20 games, won 20, scored 59, conceded 11, and got 60 points. Yeah. What a difference fucking 2 years makes, by the way, you know what I mean?
And in that game there, that's the one where Emre Can scores. That, you know, it's one of those where we get 4th, but it's a slog. Like, Emre Can scores the best goal you've ever seen. And then we go to West Brom and nick a 1-0, and it's hard graft. Yeah. It was only the West Ham game which I thought, geez, we need to win this, and it's going to be a tough game. And to be fair, we blew them out the water. Yeah. And even Middlesbrough last game of the season, I remember outside the ground, I was dead nervous. Yeah. And I remember saying to you, there's not a cup or there's nothing on this, and yet and I was like, that's as nervous as I'd been for quite a while. Yeah. So maybe, and then I remember in the ground, and because I'm an idiot, I'd done that thing when you put the scores on your phone, and Arsenal was winning, and I think Chelsea, the teams who could have overtaken us, I think it was definitely Arsenal. And then we nearly give a pen away, and it could have been a pen and doesn't get given. And then the release when Wijnaldum scored, it was like we'd won a cup. Yeah. And like you said, it was almost a bit embarrassing after the fact.
Yeah, there's a bit of snobbery, isn't there, involved in that, wasn't it? But I mean, if you want to understand how significant it is, Arsenal came 4th every year with Wenger. Yeah. And when he stopped coming 4th, they sacked him. Yeah. As long as he got 4th, they wouldn't touch him, and the fans hated him. Yeah. By the end, but the club were never letting him go while he got them into the Champions League every year. As soon as he stopped, out he went.
I think Klopp had emphasised, you know, get this 4th the aim, we get these lads in the Champions League and we can build. And the Wijnaldum goal, and I remember being there, and it got celebrated massive goal, because it was, and obviously beat them 3-0. Without all of that, there isn't an Egyptian fella on the other wing the next season, because he's not signing for you. Yeah. And all these other signs, you make good top players. They don't come to team. They weren't coming to play Europa League. Yeah.
We just weren't sure how to react to it, because you're right, it was a bit like walking in and you're like, yeah, and then you're like, we've just beaten Middlesbrough 3. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're right, the snobbery I think is spot on there, Dan, and we've had a bit too much of this over the years. It's like that, it's like you can't celebrate against certain teams, and you know what I mean? You can't get up like, we're too cool for these things. I think it's a Scouts thing, isn't it, predominantly? But that was that game, you know, we got there afterwards, we were all exhausted, we all went out and we did the live show, it was great, but it was like, we were too embarrassed to probably give it
a lot of it is because we took the piss against all the other people who were happy about it, and suddenly we found ourselves in that position.
That's what it boils down to.
I was a bit embarrassed by it.
For me, it wasn't as much snobbery for me, it was, I need to fucking have a go at them somehow, and what have I got to have a go at them? We haven't won a trophy in fucking years. I'll give it loads about you finishing 4th and thinking that's a good achievement. I'd have loved 3 FA Cups on the bounce during that period, like Arsenal got, and I'd have loved to finish 4th.
But look at it now.
Yeah.
I suppose as well is that because we did, again, if you take away those 2 games at the end, where in the end they were comfortable wins, but there was a slog. It wasn't easy, and I think that was the thing, is that, okay, you finished 4th, but my word, you nearly blew it. You were hanging on for 4th when come January, we were fighting for the league title. We were in the mix for like up until that Sunderland game. We were very much one to form teams.
Yeah. Was that the year Leicester won it?
No, that was the year before.
That was the year before.
Chelsea won it.
Chelsea won this one. But we were neck and neck with Chelsea, and then it gets to January and we felt a bit, and they just went and pissed it. But I think that was the thing, is that it was almost like we were there and then we fell, and then it wasn't like we'd scraped 4th. We should have been better. Yeah. We were really bad. and then we almost clawed our way back. But like I say, that West Brom...
It was
Well, those
cars
were
where
two
you're
seasons.
doing the last lap with no
Yeah, you were
front tire, you're
yeah.
sticking your tongue
Well,
out.
those are the two.
I've seen cars too as well.
Both us and Chelsea, neither of us had European football that season, so it was like that. It was kind of like the 13-14 thing, but with two of us, and you're right, they just had more class and more quality, all told, in that one. But it's funny because you talk about the significance of it all. You're dead right. You know, we're coming to the summer, but Liverpool have been in the Champions League, both Champions League finals since then. You know, that's how important that game is. It's not just we get to sign the players, and it is. It's all of those things and more. We literally haven't. There hasn't been a Champions League final since we qualified for the Champions League that Liverpool haven't been involved in, which is the biggest thing. But it's funny because the other reason we couldn't celebrate it, I don't know if you remember this, but we were only in the qualifying round, so we couldn't give it the beans. You couldn't properly celebrate it because we didn't know who we were going to get in qualifiers, and we could have got, I can't remember now, but there were some really big teams in there.
We got one of the toughest for us, didn't we?
Hoffenheim was a tough one, but that's the funny thing about it is, again, it gets forgotten that the club couldn't properly go for it. We couldn't, they couldn't do all the Champions League stuff. They couldn't get behind the whole thing because we were still 2 games away from qualifying. But
that summer we signed Salah, Robertson. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like two massive.
Was it Karius that summer?
Don't worry about that. They're like two, genuinely two.
No, I don't think it was.
Two of the best players in the world at their positions now joined Liverpool in that summer.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Robertson probably would have signed anyway because I think he was like 5th choice for all of us. I remember that live show you spoke about when I said we need a left back because Moreno's crap, whatever it is. Don't end up with Andy Robertson from Hull. I think I said those exact words, and look how that went. But the signings he makes in that summer take us from the team that scraping Middlesbrough was the 4th to a team that gets to a European Cup final. That's as recruitment goes. I mean, they're two amazing signings, aren't they? And
Chamberlain as well.
Chamberlain comes in, obviously does well up until the injury and stuff. So that summer they had to get it right because I remember the Rodgers when Rodgers Champions League season, and then we don't get out the group. Yeah. We go out the Bar, Ludogorets. We don't get out that group, by the way, because the recruitment was wrong. At least Liverpool got the recruitment right.
And we should have had Van Dijk then as well, shouldn't we?
Probably, yeah. And I remember wasn't it a few lads might have been checking to see if we got through the Hoffenheim qualify before they sign, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. They got it.
Well, it was I think Goethe came. Was Goethe linked the gain, or was it?
Didn't he want to find out who else was interested, and Klopp just went. No,
Klopp used the whole.
Klopp used
you want to push the train to get
it
going, or some people just want to jump on it when it's already in motion, kind of stuff, which tells you everything you need to know about his recruitment strategy. But yeah, we also deal with that time like the Coutinho stuff, which is mad because it was the first time where the lingering doubts over the owners were still there at the time, and the thought is that they're going to sell all our best players because that's what they've done. Obviously, we've seen Suarez go and all that kind of under their tenure. Torres prior to that. Klopp wanted rid of Coutinho. As soon as Coutinho said he didn't want to be involved, and it threw everyone off because it didn't fit with the narrative at the time. Everyone wanted Coutinho to stay. Klopp didn't. The owners took a stand and went, "Nah, we're drawing a line in the sand. We're not being fucked with here. We're not going to be, to bow to Barcelona's whims. So we're going to keep him." So we had all that going on.
I remember the press conference, and he said something like, we've all got bosses who we have to listen to, and excuse me, some people took that as the other way around, as that I'm fighting to keep him and these are trying to sell him. But in hindsight, it turned out the other way around. Yeah. He wanted them gone. He was like, if you're not going to want to be here, you go. It kind of got, if you were anti-FSG, which was still a thing back then almost, is that you were saying, look, they're trying to do him again, they're trying to do Klopp in again. You know, they're going to sell this lad for 100 million, not buy anyone, blah, blah, blah. It was Klopp saying, no, if you don't want to be here, mate, sound that you go. But on the flip side is that when he stays, whatever man management he does, it's amazing because Coutinho is like unreal. He comes
his best spell of form for Liverpool.
He comes on against Sevilla, I think, in the Cup or Champions League. Basically, the day after the transfer window shut, his back's better. Go figure. They boxed that one off.
It was the magic plane.
Yeah,
from Brazil.
those flights to Brazil don't have to. You bad back. That's what you should be doing. Get on a flight to Sao Paulo. But he goes from there to January, and Coutinho's unreal. And that, to be fair, that's serious man management, because he could have sulked and he could have done, he could have done whatever. And to be fair, Klopp could have been pissed off.
And the fans could have hated him as
Klopp
well.
could have just sat him in the stands for 6 months and said, I'll see you in January, mate. Yeah. But he gets the best, and Coutinho is genuinely unbelievable. And it probably gets you 140 million quid. But you're probably not going to get that much.
There's a recognition there from Klopp, because I think that was when he came up with the idea of the midfield and the fullbacks, that were the way that we're playing now. Because for as good as Phil Coutinho was, he wasn't blinded to the rest of the team and how it was performing in relation to their star player at the time, because it would have been easy for him to go out and buy someone in a similar mould to Coutinho, but he recognised the issues that we were having. And, from that, he didn't rush into it. He didn't sign a creative midfield. He didn't spunk his money on it. He just created a better Liverpool team without him.
Yeah. Do you remember? Well, it's interesting. Because you referenced the interview again that he did with us, and he talked about that. Like, you have to build a side around the strengths of your squad, and all of there's a difference between when you've got 4 world-class forwards. You have to do that, don't you? You still have to be top heavy, whereas you're dead right. Ultimately, the money gets spent on balancing out the whole endeavour, which is the genius. But the one pointer from that season that I think is important, and it is the Hoffenheim game. And I talk about this like I think I remember the Champions League games from Rafa, and we'd play teams in Europe, and the atmospheres would be terrible. They'd be dead. They'd just be treated as another game, because I think we got complacent. The Hoffenheim game is brilliant for 2 reasons. Trent Alexander-Arnold, the young right back who were like very, very unsure on whether he's going to be good enough to be a right back, scores a free kick away from home. And then the atmosphere in Hoffenheim, it doesn't get remembered because we've had so many big games since then, City, Roma, Barcelona. The atmosphere was phenomenal in that match, and we bowled them away 6-3 on aggregate in the end.
Am I right in saying that home game, Paul, did we not score like a worldie? Is it Emre Can's goal?
No, it was Mignolet to Moreno, and it went all around.
And then Emre Can taps it in.
God,
is that game?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the archetype Klopp. That's what he wants, isn't it? Yeah. It's like total football. I remember, like I say, the home Hoffenheim game. And if doesn't Klopp turn around and start screaming like this is football or something, absolutely. And you're right in that the atmosphere was unbelievable, and the work he'd put into foster that and get it working, you start to see in the fruits there, because like I say, I remember going to Graz in the Champions League qualifier where we got beat, but we got through, and we've been to a few of these standard Liège where we scrape through, and it was always a little bit taken for granted, a bit dead. Yeah. And to be fair, like, it wasn't Hoffenheim, you're right, it was really.
It was treated as glorified friendlies, those games at the time. Like, you knew you'd get through, but you didn't pour yourself into them in the same regard, and that was why it was brilliant. But it's a mad because we referenced it earlier, Dad, but that we lose to City 5-0, 4th game of the season. It's the 5-0. Mane gets sent off for kicking Ederson in the face, which is, so Mane. It's unbelievable in that, like, he loves watching
every
the
time
ball.
He puts his boot in the air, I still wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
He does it a lot, to be fair to him. Like
that, effectively, City almost won the league. That pretty much won the league that day.
That was it. Their confidence soared after that 5-0. It was the 5-0 that gave them all the confidence to go on. And we lost Mane for about 6 months. He wasn't just suspended. Yeah. His form was terrible when he came back.
I remember Oxlade Chamberlain got brought on in that game. Like, I think that might be his debut. Come on, Ox, here's your date, like 4-0. Go and chase Kevin De Bruyne for half an hour, mate.
I was at that game. That City game was fucking horrendous.
That's one of
the worst I've been to ever.
To be fair, I think you could almost shrug it off. I was thinking, you know what, hope that doesn't kill us, because any team with 10 men against City are going to get absolutely destroyed. But it had an effect. It did. It made Mane go into a shell a bit, which is, I don't think he's the most confident fella. I don't think he ever has been the most confident fella. And it was a massive kick in the teeth, I mean, for Ederson and for us. Is that it kind of felt like, okay. So that we thought we were a little bit better than what we are. Because then City run away with it, don't they? And we don't catch it.
But again, this team and Klopp, I think, have learned from these type of things, because it's not often we go down to 10 men. And I'm not even sure we have gone down to 10 men since. Maybe we have. I can't remember.
No, they get sent off a few times. Like
But you'd think now this team wouldn't capitulate like that. We would. I don't think, even if we were playing City on their best day and we had 10 men, I don't think we'd lose 5-0
shut up shop,
anymore.
wouldn't we?
Yeah.
We'd work.
We'd
a
be
different
able to
way
shut
out.
up shop. I think we tried to shut up shop there. And
this
couldn't.
is the
I
final
guarantee we
era.
never.
Ragnar Klavan
Well, it
was
didn't
getting
look like- it
spun
didn't look
around
like
by
we
Sergio
did.
Aguero.
Well, we conceded the second goal just before half time, didn't they? And that was the killer.
Yeah, well, this is the final era, I think, of like the death of Brendan Rodgers, Liverpool, and the final, you know, the rise of Klopp. Because again, in that period, you go from losing 5-0 to Man City. We beat on the 17th of November. We beat Maribor 7-0 away from home, and then immediately the next game we go to Spurs and lose 4-1. Where we got, you know, Dejan Lovren gets hooked. It's one of the most abysmal performances for the first half in particular. We were terrible, and then
That was the 13th time. No, that was, yeah, that was, the next time he hit form was the 13th time I wiped the slate clean.
yeah. But the defence never looks back from there, you know, and it gets credited. Van Dijk joins in the January and people go, it's Virgil that changed it all around, but like Lovren was never that bad again after that, and the defence starts to pick up, and that's really where we really start to hit our stride. Van Dijk, as I said, joins in January. Coutinho finally moves to Barcelona. Virgil scores the 84th minute winner against Everton in the FA Cup. Gives us all that, you know, to what that was making you, how do you make an impact upon signing and what have you. And then we get into it, and then that's when the Champions League becomes the focus. Staying, you know, the Porto game, we've now done it to them twice, so it maybe takes the shine off. But we went to the Dragao and we beat them 5-0.
They haven't been beaten in about 19 years at
exactly.
home or anything, had they?
Exactly that.
Mo Salah turned into a seal. He's like balancing the ball.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely unreal.
Yeah, it was then. That was the season when, sorry, that period when we were just snotting teams, and we don't really do that much now. To be fair, we're a bit more cool and calm. But it was against sevens, and we beat. We remember that the last game of the group stage we had to beat Spartak Moscow, I think, don't we, to go through, and then we batter them, and then we've gone batter Porto. We've already battered Maribor. We've scored 3 in Seville, albeit again.
We were about to score 5 against Rome. We're at home.
Well, 3 against City, and
Yeah, City's about to come
in
as well.
about 15 minutes.
That's when people start taking notice of the front three.
Yeah.
Like before then, it was never really talked about Liverpool's famous front three. It was like, oh yeah, they've got Sadio Mane, he's a good player. Firmino, we're not sure. And Mo Salah, well, I mean, he's at the ground running, hasn't he? He's scoring every week.
One season wonder, those things.
Obviously, yeah. But it's around then where everyone starts going, I mean, these have got something like seriously as good as anything that there is in the world at the minute, because we just started absolutely battering teams. And
But even then, and this is why it's good to look back at these things, is I would never have guessed that Liverpool become the side that it is today off watching that side. No. Because we're so far removed from that side in so many ways. You know, we were a counter-attacking side who would have to hit you on the break. And if teams came and parked the bus against us, we'd struggle. No matter how good the front three were, we'd struggle.
If you believe Klopp, that Rome game at Anfield when we were 5-0 up and they came back to 5-2, Klopp said, we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be conceding 2 goals in those situations. And it's almost like he built his philosophy of how to develop the side from that.
Yeah.
So the following season, we stopped being that side who were battering teams, and we became the side which didn't concede.
even the City game with the 4-3 in the league around that time is that it's 4-1, we should be out of sight, and then they score 2, and they nearly scored again at the end. I think he starts realising, like, we're close, but we're not quite there just yet.
It's more that thing of the solidity started to develop from. We stopped burning ourselves out. We would go heavy in those games. We'd start like a house on fire. We'd get goals up. Like in Rome, the perfect example. That Man City, similar. We would go for it, and we'd have nothing left. That Man City game, we made subs, didn't we? I think did we bring Milner on into that game, and we had nothing left. You know, the last 10 minutes was just us just covering up on the floor in the fetal position while Man City tried to pummel us to death, and that became where the change was.
And you think about how that would affect the team. You know, you do so well, you're clearly the better side, and then all of a sudden, towards the last 10-15 minutes, you are on the floor.
But also, they were unbeaten, weren't they?
Yeah.
And that was going to be their first defeat, and they didn't want to lose it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was important information to have, that you're playing against a team that are that desperate, you know.
That's it. And obviously we know that ultimately the season goes on. We managed to get top 4. We beat Brighton 4-0 on the last game of the
Dom
season.
Solanke's only goal.
Dom Solanke. Well, it was funny because we played 4-2-3-1 in that game. We moved the front 3 back a row, played Solanke. Told me like, oh, this could be a vision of what's to come now.
I was thinking, I remember saying, I wonder if he's thinking of doing this in Kiev. Like he's going to play 4-2-3-1. I mean, in hindsight, I'm wondering if we were going to start Dom Solanke up front on his own against Real Madrid, which probably was never going to happen. But
might have saved Salah's fucking shoulder, though, mightn't it?
But he does. It's weird that he just throws him in out of nowhere. Maybe he sees something in Brighton where he goes, Firmino in the 10 is probably what's going to be needed here. But we absolutely battered then, to be fair.
But it's funny because, again, like last season we went to that again, didn't we, the 4-2-3-1 for a spell of the season, and that's the first look at that. Obviously, Karius ends the season
even that
for us.
Even that league season, sorry to interrupt, mate, we slog it, don't we, again?
Yeah.
We fourth's ours forever, and all of a sudden, we keep losing, and Chelsea keep drawing. I think Milner misses a pen against Southampton, and before we get beat at Chelsea, and before we know it, that Brighton game's worth something again.
But it's why we felt, even then the next season, having got top 4 and got to the Champions League final, that we were going to have to jettison one or the other if you really wanted to go, because we had nothing left by the time we got to the Champions League final. You know, again, we're bringing Adam Lallana on, who hadn't barely played a game for months.
And Chan, he'd been injured for months as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Chan on one leg coming on in the field.
Exactly. You know, it was we were dead. We'd seen that season on season. Liverpool having nothing left in the tank come the end, and you know we then go into last season where we put down 97 points in the league and win the European Cup. What Klopp has done season on season, we feel we've learned what he's all about, and then he rewrites it again, or we go up a level that we never thought was possible. And all it's shown for me, Chris, is we're now at a level where, and I'm sure my dad will chime in on this, but we're back to the level that the best Liverpool sides were at, and it shows you how little we understood where this Liverpool side had been for 10 years. Because even when we were good, we've never been
because
this good.
As young people, as young adults, and as adults, we'd not seen anything like this with our own 2 eyes. I can't remember properly the sides of the late 80s and how good they were. I'm living off stories and VHS videos and goal rush and all these things that we had. We've not actually seen a side be built over a period of time and then be successful.
But I think that's the crucial thing,
time.
is built. Because, I mean, Madrid might beg to differ, but basically you can't buy a great team. You basically got to build it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what Klopp's done over 4 years. Looked at his resources, looked where he was short, looked at his tactics, looked at the way he developed, looked at how the league was, and all the time he's bringing in information, and it's helping him and his coaches, because you know it's not just Klopp, is it? Yeah, no. You know, it's Pep and it's all the others around them, and he's built a side. You're right, absolutely built a side that's probably the best in the world.
I think we're probably at a point now. Maybe it might have been last season, but definitely now is that every single player in this squad is someone he wants, and is someone who wants to be there. So there's no Emre Can contract disputes. There's no Coutinho. There's no whatever, whoever it is. Everyone wants to be.
Well, Pep Lijnders references again in that MK Don's press conference where he talks about like the levels of intensity and the work rate and all that. He said like we've now got that, and he kind of laughed a bit about like there's obviously lads who they've been had attachments to through contracts or whatever who just aren't bought in. And it's taken them 4 years to finally root out all the lads who.
And he didn't bring in anyone who might upset the balance of that, because he
made a bad signing, really. I mean, Karius is a bad one, but even when he quickly identifies that, because then he goes, probably a little bit too late, but then he goes and buys the best goalie in the world.
Here's the thing that always interests me from that season when Manchester City signed the Barcelona keeper, Bravo, and they spent 30 million, and they went fuck shit right out, Ederson in another 30 million, and I always thought Liverpool can't do that. You know, he's stuck with him, and then this is him learning, and he goes, we actually have to do that. and we have to spend big. And so Jurgen Klopp, when he came to us, was a guy who was recognised as getting the best out of players who don't cost any money. Now Jurgen Klopp's a guy who's going to get the best out of any player who's right for the football club, whatever the cost. Yeah. And that's the big difference for me, is I think he realised to win the Premier League or to win a European Cup or whatever, you actually have to have the best players.
I remember when we signed Van Dijk and loads of the people started bringing up, Man United spent all that money on Pogba, and I think Mourinho makes a jibe, doesn't he? Like, don't have to spend money, that kind of thing. I don't think he would like to. I think Klopp would rather do it the way you're saying. But like say,
he also wants to be successful.
But he wants to win stuff, and he realises having Virgil van Dijk makes you better at football.
Man United spend big money because it's a status thing. Like, big money is not a guarantee of success. And the thing that I think is so brilliant and is a testament to Klopp the man is that having done that job that he's done at Mainz and then at Dortmund for 7 years apiece, where particularly at Dortmund, where every time you've got a player up to a certain level, he's out the door and he's replenishing, refunding. So you can never consistently build. You're never going to topple Bayern Munich being that. You can do it periodically, but you're never going to win the league. So you're never going to...
It's not sustained success. You're not going to 5 years.
Exactly. It's like Ajax, isn't it? They're the same.
Yeah. You're never going to replace Bayern Munich.
Every now and again, they get a batch of people who are brilliant, and the year after, they're all gone.
But the thing about Klopp is that you see this happen with managers. This is what happened with Brendan Rodgers to some extent as well. But you feel like you've earned your stripes, like you've done the hard graft. So when you get that next job, you feel like you've got a divine right to go and spend all of the money. It happens to Moyes did it at Man United as well. But Klopp didn't. Klopp just came in and did exactly the same thing that he did with Dortmund, with just slightly better resources. He's earned the right to spend the big money, and he's still doing the same thing. He's only spending the money that he's making along the way.
He's not buying the best players in the world to give himself the best team. Yeah, Alisson is now thought of as the best goalkeeper in the world. I'm not sure people thought that before he came. Yeah. Van Dijk, no one was saying he was the best defender in the world, although people were saying he was good. Yeah. But who said Mo Salah was the best in the world? We thought he was an understudy when he came. What he's done is he has bought really top-notch players, but he's built them into a team.
And he's made them better individually. They're all better. Every single one, again, whether Tim or his coaching staff or whoever, there isn't a player, I don't think, who's still here or who he's brought in, who has gone worse. Like, even like Adam Lallana, you look at Lallana, he isn't worse, he just can't stay fit.
We've just run him into the ground, haven't we?
Lovren's better now than he was in 15, I can guarantee.
Moreno was better before he left, by the way.
Matip is probably the best example, because who a year ago would have said he's going to be a regular in it?
Yeah, James Milner's better now than he was under Rodgers, and he's and his legs are getting, he's older. Yeah, and that's the testament, is that you can sign anyone, you can buy all these players. So I'm just looking at some of these names. You've got. So he goes, Wijnaldum, Salah, Robertson, Chamberlain, Van Dijk, Keita, Fabinho, Shaqiri, Alisson. That's pretty much a run of players, and every single one of them is a better player now than when we bought them. Yeah. That just shows.
Maybe Keita, but yeah, take your point.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of Keita, to be fair. But even then, you're looking and going, even Shaqiri, who hardly plays, when he plays, he's better than he was at Stoke. Yeah. He's more disciplined. That just shows, not only is he a great manager, everyone, the press conference, and you mentioned getting the fans, even the bloody good coaches as well. And sometimes I think that does get underplayed by Klopp. Everyone sees him as the rah-rah cheerleader fella. Yeah. Good at press conference, shouting around the ground. But in terms of making players, like Mo Salah was a £40 million player who's worth 100 million, 50 million quid now. Yeah. Sadio Mane, Firmino, Matip, what's Van Dijk worth?
Well, exactly.
And he talks about development all the time, doesn't he? Even players like Van Dijk, he will tell you he's got room to develop.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that comes from the fact that he thinks he has.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think if you think you have, then it's easy for you to tell a defender who you bought for 75 million that they've got room to improve.
Liverpool's littered with players, and Jermaine Pennant was always cited as an example of this, who came to Liverpool. You go to Liverpool and you've made it. So and everything will just come to you once you're there, and Klopp typifies that. From him downwards, it's like he never feels like he's reached the pinnacle by joining Liverpool. And it helps that Liverpool were a bit crap when he took over, so it was a next good step up project for him. But you've got to work your bollocks off from day one you're
Even
coming in, and no one rests on the laurels, and that comes from him, because he could have come in and been the big I am. Look what I did. I overtook Bayern Munich with these resources. I did this. Now give me the money because I'm going to go and do X, Y, and Z. But he hasn't. It's all been a progression year in, year out, and it's been an amazing ride. It leads us to I want to run through a few facts and stats that have kind of come up during Klopp's reign. Some fascinating stuff in here. Under Klopp, Liverpool have salvaged 75 points from losing positions, 20 wins and 15 draws. We scored 61 goals after the 80th minute, with 24 of those coming in stoppage time. Klopp's never lost a two-legged European tie with the Reds, which we know because we've reached the final of every European competition we've entered with him.
He has crucially lost a two-legged tie with us, though. Obviously not European.
Yeah.
Semi-final of the Carabao, wasn't it, against Southampton?
Yeah.
Bastards. I thought Southampton would be the one that do him in a two-legged tie.
Shane Long does us in.
I know, yeah.
That old chestnut.
That was just, we obviously owed them something, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, right here, right now, at the time of recording, we're on a 25-game unbeaten run, which is our longest since 1987. It's about May 87 to March 88, where the club went 31 games unbeaten.
In the league.
Sure, because obviously we've lost games in between that. The Milner's 95th minute penalty versus Leicester means Liverpool have now scored 8 more last minute winners than any other side in Premier League history so far, with Arsenal next on 25. Klopp's never lost 2 league games consecutively. Klopp has lost as many games in his first 9 Premier League matches in charge of the Reds that he has in his last 60. Tells you everything you need to know about the progression. Our current 17-match winning streak is one behind the record, our longest win streak in the Premier League era. After the 2-1 win over Southampton in August, Klopp became the quickest Liverpool manager to reach 300 points and 146 games. Second was Dalglish. It took him 150. Klopp's Liverpool have won their first 8 games of this season, first time since 1991. We won't talk about how that season ended. After Liverpool's 2-1 away win against Chelsea, it meant Klopp had won 92 times in 150 games. Win percentages, he's third only behind Dalglish and McKenna/Barkley. Go ahead. 517 most consecutive minutes in all competitions without conceding a goal under Klopp. These go on for days and days and days. But the point is, Chris, I always make about these things, about good sides, and when we talk about how Klopp's redefining what good is that we are now breaking records that the best Liverpool sides of all time.
These aren't records like you see on Championship Manager, where a lad scores his first goal for the club. These are records against a 127-year, 28-year history of a football club that has dominated for years and years and years, and he's going through and smashing them all. And the thing is, half of those records, they're adjusting them. The Kenny one, or they're all like, it's got to be 3 points for a win. They're adjusting these records as well, and they still can't come close to Klopp's Liverpool side.
I think the big thing was that we started getting bits of this under Klopp, didn't we? Like we would tell we were becoming a good team, but these records are falling, and they're always, every time you see it's like the first time since '88 or first time since '87 when Liverpool were the best team in the world. I mean, listen, the fact that he's won the European Cup helps, because otherwise. The throwback is, oh brilliant, we haven't won nothing.
Yeah.
The fact that we went and done what we did last year, it kind of, these are just a cherry on top. You have to win something to be considered like the greatest.
Unless you're Danny Mills, in which case the trophy doesn't
matter. Don't worry about it, unless you only win 2 trophies, and then in which case, get a hat on and slag people off. I was just thinking, if, like say, the fact that we obviously won it in Madrid, and then they're breaking these records, you can now compare them without.
You're allowed to, and it's not a flight of fancy.
I thought last season, I said this might be the best Liverpool team I've ever seen, but they hadn't won anything. Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, how can you compare these to the lads who won the double in '88 or whatever if they're not doing that? Because we were smashing all those records. Now we're getting the records, and then we're getting the silverware. We've got the silverware. There's a very good chance there'll be more silverware coming this year, you would hope.
86, we won the double with one of the worst sides we'd had in the 80s. Yeah. It was one of those, a bit like winning the Istanbul with that team. You know, it was just an anomaly. Yeah. You know, we had Dalglish, who was just a genius. But the best side I ever saw was the late 80s, the side that Kenny built without himself, really, with Beardsley and Barnes and Aldridge. And this side is better.
Tells you everything you need to know, and that's the thing. You know, we don't have the context for it. It's the best Liverpool team I've ever seen. because I'm too young to remember all that. And the ones that come close are, again, 13, 14, 08, 09, but they were a flash in the pan. I mean, I think that's a bit unfair because we built towards that, of course, like in the 2001 to 2000 to 2002 under Ulier was class. But nothing's like this. This is, I keep referring to this. Angry wasp behind me. This is my point of comparison for this is Manchester United. The Man United that I've grown up with is the only thing I recognise in this, and that's where we're getting to in terms of levels. Just the last couple of things here, which is really good, and it was something that.
Well, sorry, before you move on, Paul, this doesn't feel like the end of a side, though, does it? Either
No.
It just feels like the start of something, and you look back with hindsight at 13, 14, and as soon as Suarez went, we should have known, and as soon as
well, you knew within 6 games of the next season.
This side's so young and they're tied down for so long, and the club's being so well run off the pitch, and the management's doing everything right on the pitch, and the players are obviously performing, that you're looking at this going, we might not win the league this year, but I do believe over the next 4 we're going to bag ourselves 2 minimum.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the situation where we're in, isn't it? And I looked at it the other week in terms of like the average age of the squad and all that kind of stuff. Okay, our front 3 are all 28 this season, so they'll all be 30 in 2 years' time. But then, you look at all the lads who are coming up, like Trent Alexander-Arnold won't yet have hit his peak years yet. Gomez will only just be sort of coming in.
Harvey Elliott won't hit puberty.
Harvey Elliott will only
He may be back for his 14-day ban though.
Yeah, he'll only just be able to buy a bevy at this point.
But also, we are looking through a prism of our football in life. Look over the road, look down the road at Manchester City, and look at the age of Aguero, and look at Fernandinho, and look at those players. We're thinking of our players being 30 and done.
Yeah.
These lads have grown up with sports science, with everything else. We've got 4 or 5 maybe left with a lot of this squad.
100%, and that's the point, is that in 2 years' time, when we're starting to think, will our best players still be at the peak? They'll be 30. We're looking at Man City now and still calling them the best side in English history. And, Aguero's 31, David Silva's 34, Kevin De Bruyne, I think, is 28, 29, I think he is this season.
33.
Exactly. So our best players will still be younger then than Man City's were last year.
And they'll still be trying to get fucking Foden minutes on the pitch.
Absolutely. One thing just lastly, you pointed out, Chris, that Liverpool's value, according to Transfermarkt, when Klopp took over, was just shy of 300 million, and according to it now, it's somewhere in the region of £1 billion, which tells you
the players'
the whole thing. This is
the value of the club.
Oh, the club, sorry.
Was 267 million on the 1st of October 2015, and it's 297 and 967 million on the 1st of October, now valued at just over £1 billion, with a net spend of around 70 million.
Unreal.
I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, that's what shows success has to go hand in hand with success off the pitch, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're interwoven.
Steve's phone couldn't believe that.
But this is the thing, I was sat here...
That's United falling off its perch.
I was sat here a year ago doing like the 3 years of Klopp retrospective and what have you, and I couldn't fathom where, at this point a year ago, I couldn't imagine that Liverpool would do 97 points and win a European Cup at the end of it, because you can't, certainly not both. You know what I mean? I didn't think, I thought we'd win the league. I never dreamt we'd come close in the European Cup, and yet here we are. I can't even imagine where we'll be a year from now, or even when we're looking back when Klopp finally decides it's time for him to move on. We should be looking back at a period of some of the best success we've had in a very long time. So yeah, brilliant. There you go. 4 years a year can Klopp, and long may it continue.
What's been your best bit? Other than, let's put Madrid aside.
It's hard to not, because of recency bias, it's hard to look past Barcelona at Anfield. Yeah. I've never quite experienced anything. I've had tasters. Dortmund was a bit like that, and we had a couple of Arsenal games and a couple of Man City games that have come close to that.
It's Klopp's boom, isn't it? Those wins, bang, bang, bang.
It's every time he's walking towards the Kop and he's going to do that. There's some real highs, aren't they?
I mean, my highs were not the season we didn't win the Champions League. The Roma and the City European Cup games. Because we played absolutely fantastic football, attacking football. Now we're much more consistent. We're not quite as dramatic.
We're a bit bored, aren't we? But in a good way.
But in a good way, yeah, consistent. We win games now.
But we still have the ability to pull 4-0 at home against Barcelona with no Salah.
4-0 Barcelona and Markovic not being able to score past me, I think.
Sad.
I love the way that it goes back to the old boot room stuff. We've won the European Cup, and that's yesterday.
Yeah.
Not interested in it anymore. And Klopp said that as soon as he sobered up.
3 weeks
what he
later,
was saying.
when pre-season was starting.
It's gone. Forget about it. Don't talk about it now. And that's what I like. It's all about the future.
Man might be him running on the pitch when we beat Everton.
Oh, when he jumped in front of Allison.
With Carragher's,
that might be my favourite thing. Look at Klopp! Look at Klopp! Whatever he says. But going back to the Barca thing very quick before we obviously finishes that. We mentioned before, didn't we, what all those late goals and like the mentality thing that just encapsulated it. Like your two best players are injured. You're playing against the best player who's ever been alive. You can undersell it a little bit, can't you? Like how crazy, like
3-0 down after bizarre. The first leg when Messi's Messi, yeah, and you know what, and it's easy to think we weren't good in that first leg, and we actually were really good for long spells that game until it completely got away from us, and then you're right, we put it to like Origi and Gini Wijnaldum scored the goals. We had James Milner left back for 45 minutes of that game.
Hendo's struggling with an injury as well.
I think you know what the best moment is actually. I've realised it might be the best moment in Liverpool history. It's the ball boy running on the pitch and flicking the V's at Leo Messi. It's the most scouse thing in the history of the city.
I'd love to see his Twitter mentions.
Oh, unreal, absolutely unreal.
I think you could almost, obviously it's too early to bookend it, but you look at that West Brom and you look at what the lads did after Barcelona in front of the Kop, and you realise how far we've come just from those two images. They're stood in the same fucking place, and yet. That's the beginning.
It's 11 lads who, and half of them miss it because Klopp's trying to curl them. Like Mignolet gets there just as they're basically finished doing it. And there's a couple lads at the end who are a bit embarrassed doing or whatever. To the entire playing staff and the off the field staff and the office staff and the dinner ladies are all there singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" at the peak of the voice. Yeah, absolutely unreal. Gents, that's been an absolute pleasure, and as I say, long may it continue. Thank you very much to everyone for watching, for listening to it as a podcast as well, and make sure you go over to theathletic.co.uk/the Redmen TV to get that 50% discount on your yearly subscription rate. Get that amazing rating because it promises to be another fantastic year. You've got your Redmen TV subscription, of course you have. Get your Athletic subscription boxed off as well because on the Jurgen Klopp, odds are it's going to be a fantastic ride.